John Cena's retirement is not one match. It's not the end of WrestleMania. It is going to be something we've never really seen before, and that is a tour, a 2025 tour, 30 dates approximately. It's not starting yet, so it's weird that it's not like the tour starts Monday. It's weird It's not that the tour starts at SummerSlam. The tour doesn't start for 6 months. So he's giving us an announcement that this is coming in the future. We've never really seen anything like this in wrestling. We've seen people kind of on retirement tours in a way, but they seem to start now. They seem to have already been in the process of being. But this is like a weird, like, I'm coming, but not yet. I'm retiring, but not yet. WrestleMania will be my last WrestleMania, but I'm still going to go for like 10 months after that. So that's weird as well. John Cena's on this 2025 retirement tour. What do you make of this retirement tour in the sense of, I guess, my not just his opponents, the people themselves, but do you feel that anybody is going to, I guess, be an opponent where it's going to be a real like rivalry or like a real face versus heel kind of thing? Or is this all going to be everybody is just honored to wrestle you? We're going to, like, how do we play stories with a guy who we know is done?
Well, it's going to be the Tony Khan booking. It's going to be it's going to be fantasy booking. It's going to be dream matches or matches that we haven't seen in a while. I think that's what it comes down to. And here's the thing, like I'm sure there's going to be some stories along the way for especially some of the bigger matches. And here's the thing, I think it's a very unique situation where it's a farewell tour and it's not going to end in WrestleMania season. So I think it's cool that John Cena is going to he's announced like I'm gonna spend 2025, a portion of it, doing, kind of going on this farewell tour. It's thanking the fans, which I think is great. I think he wants to just do kind of one little loop left, so to speak, one big loop, and I think it's good. I think it's a great thing, and I'm excited for it. And it's I just don't want it to be, in no offense, because I do like this band. I just don't want it to be like Lynyrd Skynyrd's farewell tour, and then like we have 3 more, or 7 more, or 12 more, like. If this, when he says it's his farewell tour, I want it to mean it because it's going to mean a lot more when we look back years later. And by the way, I'm going to enjoy every single thing that he does from here on out from 2025, and just going to take it in and enjoy it. That's all.
Without any specific opponents or anything like that.
Yeah.
Do you see in the 2025 tour? A few questions. One, do we see any repeat opponents? I don't mean he's faced them before, but I mean during the year of 2025 on television or at a pay-per-view, are we going to see him face off against the same person more than once? That'll be the first question.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be a bunch of one-offs. I think it's just going to be, I think they're going to, say like an LA Knight, like he's going to go to LA Knight, maybe he does something with Randy Orton or like maybe a Sheamus or, there's superstars that he hasn't really, had a chance to lock horns with. Like I would like to see some of those matchups. Like I'd like to see something with like maybe like a Seth Rollins, maybe AJ Styles. Like I'm just fantasy booking here.
Yes.
I want to see some one-offs.
Do you see any, like kind of was alluding to at the start of this, any like kind of stories, right? Is it just going to be, I want to face LA Knight, like similar to like when he faced Austin Theory at WrestleMania last year, or in 2023, which is last year still. But when he faced him, it was kind of like a quick little challenge. I know Austin Theory's a bad guy, but there wasn't really much to it. Do we see anything similar to what we're seeing, like let's say Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, right? That kind of story, and obviously they're not going to drag it out for that long. Do we see anything where like John Cena wants to challenge somebody and that person says no, and it turns into like an obsession? It turns into a character. It turns into John Cena making appearances on Raw that aren't matches, but that are trying to get matches with this person or trying to get involved, or some sort of storyline that transcends just I'm going to wrestle you in the ring. We'll see who wins, and then we'll move on.
Well, here's the thing, and you mentioned somebody's name in particular that actually during one of their promos recently, he gave some love to John Cena, and there's been a lot of love lost between those two over the years, and that's one CM Punk. I think that right there, I think CM Punk and John Cena have enough pull that if they want to have a matchup, they're going to have a matchup, and I do think that's happening, and I think that was a subtle, like CM Punk saying, let's do something. And I feel like if anybody's going to build a story with John Cena towards the farewell tour, I think it's CM Punk.
The issue, I guess, I mean, it's not really much of an issue, but I guess the interest is, so with the Ric Flair thing that happened many, many years ago, and obviously that wasn't really, but I have more confidence in John Cena than Ric Flair when it comes to retirements. But, it was the next time you lose, your career is over. We don't have that with John Cena. So he could win the Royal Rumble, go on to WrestleMania, fight for the championship, put it all on the line, lose. And then he'll be back on Raw the next day and be like, all right, who's next? Like, I think that's a strange way to kind of book it, because this isn't one of those, the next time I lose, I'm done. He says, I'm going to wrestle throughout the whole year. I'm going to be here. So even though I'm going to fight Hell in a Cell in September, and probably, we're going to hype it up like I could essentially die, because that's how they hype things up, right? They hype it up like your career will never be the same after this. I'm pretty much telling you ahead of time it will be, and I'll see you at the next pay-per-view. So it's hard, because when you see these people wrestle, even Cody Rhodes going towards Solo at SummerSlam, he's not already being like, well, yeah, no matter what happens at SummerSlam, I can't wait to fight Drew McIntyre at Bash at Berlin. Like, they're not really putting the cart before the horse.
Here's what I equate it to in a different sense. The late great Kobe Bryant, when Kobe Bryant announced like that he was retiring. And like he essentially that last season he played in the NBA was his farewell tour. So like that's what I equate it to, because not only is John Cena,
it's a little bit different though, because he's a competitor, and there is no teams out there that literally say the goal is in this game, if he loses, he's going to be so embarrassed he'll never show his face on the court again.
The point is though, it's like, say he loses, in that point he lost to like the Milwaukee Bucks or something. It's not a huge thing, because it's like, okay, he's going on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That's the point of it. I'm taking the competitive, side of it out. I'm taking the fact that, okay, he's playing like the last time he's going to play in this particular arena, like Madison Square Garden. Like that's cool. Like, and it's like he goes to all, it's like he's hitting up every arena for.
So we're not going to get a lot of stories out of this. We're not going to get a lot of like you say, like big. Let's say John Cena versus The Rock, right? When he lost to The Rock at WrestleMania, the following year, the whole story was, if I can't beat you, I don't have a career. Like, I need to beat you.
I don't think he faces The Rock.
I can't lose to you. And then,
let me pose this to you.
He loses.
Does he go 17? Does he go to number 17? Does he win the championship?
If he does, maybe at WrestleMania. I mean, maybe he wins the Rumble and goes to WrestleMania, because he's not done after WrestleMania, so he could definitely have a run with it. I guess it's just interesting because you're booking stories and you're booking matches, and a lot of times matches only matter with good stories. So it's weird that he's essentially saying ahead of time, right? CM Punk isn't already telling me who he's going to fight at WrestleMania next year, because the story has to kind of grow.
You just made a good point, for a counterpoint, indirectly, because if, say, John Cena wins Royal Rumble, there's a storyline there where he could build it
till WrestleMania,
and
then afterwards, he could be the champion, and essentially. But again, if he loses at Backlash, he's saying, "Well, I'm not done yet," or "Who do I got next?" So it's different, because it's like building Rock and Cena that once in a lifetime where we just have the match, but it's like doing that for a whole year.
Yeah, but you could double dip a little bit with two of your big four, actually three of your big four, because John Cena's in Royal Rumble. Say he wins at WrestleMania and then drops the belt in SummerSlam, and that's part of the farewell tour. And then once that's done, then then he moves on to finishing up his career and having some of those other dream matchups, and then retires.
I guess it's just, I guess the thing I'm just very curious. It's not so much the opponents, but it's just like, how do you hype up the same story over and over, meaning the story is it's a dream matchup, right? Sometimes we have that where it's not a good story, where it's just a dream matchup, right? We just had, I think, a few times in WWE.
You know what they're doing?
But they're doing it in every match.
They've already hyped it up where it's, they've already hyped this up where like every match is special, because, it's on the farewell tour. So to that point, I think that's what it comes down to. They're already selling you like, hey, make sure you come out and buy your tickets, and you know what, John Cena is going to be in your town, this is going to be the last time.
And I think the house shows are different, because you could just have matches. There's nothing really involved. You don't even have a lot of matches. It's just the in-ring stuff. But I guess, if you look at Rock and Cena 2, when that happened at WrestleMania 29, what made Rock and Cena happen again was essentially you had to have kind of a story this time. The first time it's just based on the match. It's just we're two big names. We're going to face off against each other. It's a dream match. But the second time around to have a rematch, they kind of had to have some vendetta, some revenge, some that kind of thing. And same with The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. We had it at WrestleMania 25. It was a fine match. It was a great match, probably the best in WrestleMania history. But to wrestle again the next year, they had to put some stakes on the line. They had to have some sort of interest. So with John Cena, he's going to have a match at Royal Rumble. He's going to have a match at Elimination Chamber. He's going to have a match at WrestleMania. And I guess in order to kind of keep having these dream matches, you just eventually have a dream match, and then why is he going to fight Undertaker again? You got to have a reason. He already fought LA Knight back at Elimination Chamber. Why is he going to fight him again at SummerSlam? We already had the no story part. Like what is going to be the motivation for the rematch, I guess. And I guess one kind of question I'll bring to you: wins and losses. He's going to have about 30 dates. I imagine that means 30 matches. More wins or losses? What kind of record are we seeing out of this farewell tour?
I feel like it's going to be, and this is probably a cop-out answer, but I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think there's going to be, like, if it's going to be a mixed bag, I think what happens is he wins a match, he loses a match, he loses a match, he wins a match. But if it's one-offs, if it's going to be one-offs, you know what? Even if one-offs, it could still be a handshake at the end, like, all right, LA Knight, like, you know what? You got me. We shake hands, we move on. So the answer to that question, I would say, say 30 matches, I say it's 20 and 10.
Do we have any matches where, like you say, let's say against LA Knight, when the match is over and John Cena wins, that LA Knight gives him a low blow and is essentially like, no, I want to, because it's going to be tough for the people who lose, right? Because they want to win the last time they face John Cena, especially if other people are getting the win, right? If John Cena's facing LA Knight and LA Knight's getting the win, then somebody like a Grayson Waller, he's going to say, well, I want to win. I don't want my last match against John Cena ever to be a loss. So if I do lose, I want a rematch. You know what I mean? So it's going to be difficult, and who they decide gets to win and who has to lose. I imagine, like I said, it's going to be a mixed bag. I imagine he's probably going to lose more than win, which is going to be difficult because if he's just a big loser, you know what I mean? He's going out on a losing tour, right?
Yeah,
so it's hard to balance. It's just so hard to balance this when you know what's happening. When you know the future, it's hard. You know what I mean? When you know Solo Sikoa is going to be there for the next year as the tribal chief leader of the bloodline, win, lose, or draw, it's hard to book that because we don't know that it doesn't matter what happens at SummerSlam. He's going to wrestle again. And that's why, say, it's hard to book something where you already know the future. We already know if John Cena gets his ass handed to him at WrestleMania in an embarrassing fashion, he's still going to wrestle at the next pay-per-view, and we're going to pretend like that never happened because he's got another big match to hype against the next opponent. So it's difficult to kind of see that long-term booking. I wonder how they're going to do it. I think that's going to be the difficult part in making it so that we want to see these matches. Every match isn't just a house show match where it's him versus LA Knight for no reason, him versus AJ Styles for no reason, how we're going to have the stories built into it, how we're going to have the people win and lose for the reasons that they win and lose. You know what I mean? Because, we got to make sure that we're making people look good. We're putting people over. We're not just having John Cena go out on a big winning streak, making everyone look like a loser. But at the same time, we can't have John Cena look like a loser on his way out. So that balance is going to be tough. I can't wait to see it. And it's crazy because, again, it's not starting today. It's not starting tomorrow. It's not starting for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again,
Cool.
I guess that means we're definitely not going to see John Cena for the remainder of 2024. For anybody who's we're going to get maybe a surprise appearance, I guess we're not getting that.
Probably not.
But I guess we got to make sure too, and when you hype up something like this, is injuries, as we saw with CM Punk, right? We don't know when they're going to happen. They can pop up on you, or Seth Rollins even, at any time. So I really hope this farewell tour, gets to get off the ground. We don't have a COVID pandemic, or we don't, and that would, I think, because we know WWE, they move on. So we saw like Edge, right? He showed up at the Royal Rumble, made his return in 2020, and then went to WrestleMania, and with Drew McIntyre, right, going for the championship, we had to just move on. And those people, did what they did at WrestleMania in front of nobody, and it stinks. So I don't want anything to taint John Cena's year. I want 2025 to be perfect. We don't need to have him get injured, and the year cut short. We don't need to have his opponents get injured and that cut short. We don't need to see a big pandemic where all of a sudden his farewell match is in front of nobody. We got to make sure, that it's a perfect storm
Well,
for him to go out.
I'm just gonna say this: it's probably not gonna be perfect, but they'll weather it and they'll weather the storm and do the best they can.